Imagine a tiny gadget hanging around your neck, no bigger than a guitar pick, that listens to every conversation you have all day long. That's reportedly what Meta, the company behind Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, is quietly building right now. According to a TechCrunch report from late May, Meta is developing an AI pendant, a wearable device with cameras and microphones designed to capture your world and feed it to an artificial intelligence assistant. Here's the number that should make you sit up. Meta has already sold over 2 million pairs of its Ray-Ban smart glasses, and now they want to put that same always-listening technology somewhere even more personal on your chest. Think of it like a personal assistant that never blinks, never sleeps, and remembers everything you say. You ask it where you left your keys, and because it saw them earlier, it actually knows. You walk past a restaurant, and it whispers the menu and reviews into your ear. It sounds like science fiction, but the hardware to do this fits in the palm of your hand today. Meta isn't alone in this race either. A whole wave of startups has tried and mostly failed to make these little AI companions stick. So why is the biggest social media company on Earth betting on a necklace? And what does it mean when a microphone you wear all day is owned by the same company that built the world's largest advertising machine? Let's unpack the whole story. To understand why Meta wants this, you have to rewind to a graveyard of failed gadgets. In 2024, a startup called Humane launched the AI Pin, a little square you clip to your shirt that promised to replace your phone. It cost $700 plus a monthly fee, and it flopped so badly the company was sold off for parts within a year. Around the same time, the Rabbit R1, a bright orange AI box, sold well at first then got mocked for barely working. A pendant called Friend raised millions and became internet famous mostly for being creepy. So the pattern was clear: people loved the idea of a wearable AI, but hated every actual product. Then Meta did something nobody expected. Instead of building a weird new gadget, they hid the same technology inside Ray-Ban sunglasses, a brand people already trusted and wanted to wear. Those glasses, packed with cameras and a voice assistant, became a genuine hit, selling more than 2 million units. Suddenly, Meta had proof that people will wear an AI camera on their face if it looks normal. A pendant is the logical next step, cheaper than glasses, works for people who don't wear sunglasses indoors, and sits closer to your mouth for clearer audio. Mark Zuckerberg has been blunt that he sees wearables, not phones, as the next computing platform. And that's where the real story starts. Because Meta isn't chasing a fad, they're trying to own what comes after the smartphone entirely. So how does a pendant the size of a coin actually run an artificial intelligence smart enough to be useful? The magic is a split-brain design. The pendant itself carries a small camera, one or more microphones, and a low-power chip, the same kind of energy-sipping processor inside your smartwatch. That chip handles the simple stuff locally, waking up when you speak, compressing audio, and sending it onward. The heavy thinking happens elsewhere. Your spoken question and a snapshot of what the camera sees get beamed over Bluetooth to your phone, and from there to Meta's servers, where a giant language model called Llama does the actual reasoning. Think of the pendant as the eyes and ears, your phone as the spinal cord, and the cloud as the brain. This is exactly how the Ray-Ban glasses already work today. The reason it has to be split this way comes down to physics. A chip powerful enough to run a full AI model would drain a tiny battery in minutes and get hot enough to burn your skin. By offloading the thinking to the cloud, the pendant can run all day on a battery smaller than a coin. The trade-off, of course, is that everything it sees and hears has to travel off the device to work. Reports suggest Meta is targeting a price well under the $700 Humane charged, possibly closer to $200 to get these into millions of hands fast. But here's the twist nobody expected: the cheaper they make it, the more they need from you in return. Let's make this concrete with a normal day. You're in the supermarket holding 2 cereal boxes, squinting at the labels. You mutter which one has less sugar, and the pendant, having glanced at both, tells you instantly. No phone, no typing, no app. Later you meet someone at a party whose name you forget 2 seconds after hearing it. The pendant quietly logs it, so when you ask later, who was that person in the blue jacket, it actually answers. You're cooking from a recipe, and your hands are covered in flour, so you just ask out loud for the next step. These are the moments Meta is chasing, Tiny frictions that a phone makes annoying because you have to stop, unlock, and tap. A wearable that already sees and hears removes that friction entirely. Translation is another killer use. You travel to Tokyo, someone speaks Japanese, and the pendant whispers the English in your ear within a second. Early testers of similar devices report the real magic isn't any single feature. It's the feeling of having a quiet assistant who already has context. It knows you skipped lunch, knows your flight is at 6, knows you said you'd call your mum. Roughly 70% of smartphone interactions are quick glances under 10 seconds, exactly the kind a pendant could absorb. But here's what most coverage gets wrong. These dream scenarios only work if the device records far more of your life than any gadget ever has before. So how does Meta's pendant stack up against everything that came before? Start with the doomed Humane AI pin. It tried to be a standalone phone replacement with its own cellular connection and a tiny laser projector that beamed text onto your palm. It was ambitious, expensive at $700, and it overheated. Meta's approach is the opposite: lean on the phone you already own, do less on the device, and keep it cheap. Compare it to Meta's own Ray-Ban glasses, which sell for around $300. The glasses see what's in front of you but can't sit on your chest pointing outward all day, and plenty of people simply don't wear glasses. A pendant fills that gap. Then there's the Friend Pendant and Limitless, smaller startups whose devices mostly just record audio for later transcription. They capture, but they don't really assist in the moment. Meta's pitch is that it combines all three: the camera of the glasses, the always-on listening of Friend, and the cloud brain of a full assistant backed by a company with billions of dollars and its own llama models. Here's the comparison that matters most, though. Every one of those startups had to convince you to trust a brand you'd never heard of. Meta already has the cameras, the servers, and roughly 3 billion daily users. And this is where it gets complicated. The same scale that makes the product viable is exactly what makes the privacy questions enormous. Now we get to the part that should give everyone pause. Meta does not make its money selling gadgets. It makes nearly $160 billion a year selling advertising, built on knowing more about you than almost any company in history. Now imagine that same company has a microphone and camera you wear on your chest from breakfast to bedtime. Everything you say, everyone you meet, every store you walk into, potentially logged. Even if Meta promises today that it won't use that data for ads, promises can change, and the hardware to capture your entire life would already be sitting on millions of chests. There's also the bystander problem. When you wear this, you're not just recording yourself, you're recording the stranger next to you on the train, your kids, your doctor, people who never agreed to anything. Ray-Ban glasses already triggered this debate with a tiny light that's supposed to signal recording. But a pendant is even easier to hide. Think of it like everyone suddenly wearing a body camera, except the footage flows to an advertising company. Regulators in Europe have already fined Meta billions of dollars over privacy, and a wearable like this walks straight into that fire. The convenience is real and genuinely useful, but the cost is a level of always-on surveillance society has never agreed to. And here's the thing that changes everything. Most people will trade that privacy without reading a single line of the terms, simply because it's convenient. So what can you actually do about this, whether you buy one or just live in a world where others wear them? First, if you do get a wearable like this, dig into the privacy settings the moment you set it up. On Meta's existing devices, you can turn off the setting that lets your voice recordings be stored and reviewed by humans. Look for the Data and Privacy menu, then Voice Storage, and switch it off. Second, learn the recording indicator. Meta's glasses use a white light to show they are capturing. Insist any pendant has a clear, visible signal, and don't disable it. Third, understand the permissions you grant during setup. When the app asks for camera, microphone, and location access all at once, that bundle is where the surveillance lives. Grant only what a feature actually needs. Fourth, for the bystanders in your life, the simple courtesy is to tell people when a device is recording. Same way you'd ask before filming someone. As a non-wearer, you can look for that indicator light and ask people to pause it in private moments. And finally, watch the terms of service for the phrase, used to improve our services. That's almost always the clause that lets your data train their models. But here's the kicker. The most powerful privacy setting isn't in any menu. It's the simple choice of whether the convenience is worth wearing a corporate microphone every waking hour. That decision stays entirely yours. So let's bring it home. Meta building an AI pendant isn't really a story about one more gadget. It's a story about the next great battle for where computing lives. For 15 years, that place was your phone, a device you choose to pick up. Wearables flip that completely. The AI is always on, always watching, always one whisper away. Meta tried this with glasses and proved people will wear a camera if it feels normal. And now a cheap pendant could push that always-on assistant onto millions more chests, possibly for under $200. The promise is genuinely seductive, an assistant that remembers everything so you don't have to, that translates the world, that removes 1,000 tiny daily frictions. The price is equally real, handing the world's biggest advertising company a live feed of your entire life and everyone around you. Neither side is hype. Both are true at the same time. That's exactly what makes this the most important wearable story of the year. The one thing to walk away with is this. When the device arrives, the convenience will be obvious and instant, but the cost will be invisible and slow. Decide what your everyday life is worth to you before the marketing decides for you. This is a story we'll be tracking closely as Meta moves from rumor to real product, so you'll want to stay across every twist. If this helped the pieces click into place, follow for daily AI news, and I'll see you in the next one.